The very first villain to appear in the new Batman cartoon, Batman Cape Crusader, is arguably one of his most well-known foes. However, the version of the Penguin we see is physically very different from what we've seen before. Cape Crusader's penguin is Oswalda Cobblepot, owner of the Floating Iceberg Lounge, and one of the club's headline acts. She sings, she dances, and entertains the guests of the boat. Now, when this version of the character was revealed, predictably there was a bit of an outcry. I don't use Twitter anymore, and no, I will never call it X, but I have had people send me screenshots of the Blue Checkmark Brigade's response. It's a completely unsurprising reactionary response that ignores a very simple fact. Almost every on-screen version of the Penguin is different from the last. We've had the comic book accurate Penguin of the Batman 66 show, the mutant Penguin Man of the Sewer from Tim Burton's Batman Returns, the red-headed little person with kung fu skills in The Batman cartoon, the murderous Cockney gangster with a glass bottle stuck in his eye in the Arkham video games, Telltale Games' Twilight Penguin, and Colin Farrell's Tony Soprano cosplay from The Batman. And by the way, I'm really looking forward to the Penguin show when that comes out. My point is that of all of Batman's foes, the Penguin is the one with the least consistency in terms of their physical appearance. This is partly because the original Penguin is a bit of an absurd character, and different people will have different ideas on how to translate him to the screen. I've previously talked about how the Batman the Animated Series version of the Penguin was a bit of a wasted opportunity. Go watch that video after you've watched this one. Essentially, the creative team had to synergise with Batman Returns, and that seemed to take a lot of wind out of their sails. But they would go on to remedy this with changes they made to the Penguin in the new Batman adventures. What is consistent is the fact that the Penguin is almost always a ruthless, calculating killer, and that remains the case in Cape Crusader. In fact, if anything, I'd argue that this version of the Penguin is the most ruthless one we've seen so far. It's really quite telling that this is the villain they chose for their first episode, and very clearly demonstrates their mission statement: to take familiar characters, switch them up, and try new things. Rather than being a short, dumpy-looking weirdo with delusions of grandeur, Oswalda Cobblepot towers over everyone. She's actually pretty large, and not in an obese sense necessarily. Her physique resembles an emperor penguin, hence the name. And it's a name that she embraces by wearing a tuxedo, top hat and monocle, really playing up that part of her identity. This design evokes memories of classic stars Greta Garbo and Marlene Dietrich, and some Mae West. Like Bruce Wayne, Oswalda has two sides to her personality: the public persona, the showy, glamorous club singer, and her real self, the ruthless gangster. When the episode opens, we see a man named Clarence tied to a chair being interrogated by the Penguin's enforcer Iggy. While he is sure of his friend's innocence, Iggy informs Clarence that the Penguin wants to speak to him herself. Clarence has been accused of leaking information to Penguin's rival, Rupert Thorne, and Penguin doesn't tolerate betrayal. She enters the room and, without saying a word, draws a hidden blade from her umbrella. See you later, Clarence. This just goes to show that in the Penguin's gang, loyalty trumps everything else, and we see a great example of this when Rupert Thorne indicates to Penguin that her son Aaron has been leaking information to him. This interaction between Thorne and Penguin is really quite revealing. Penguin and Thorne are rivals. Thorne knows that the Penguin has been trying to take him out in order to claim his territory, and Penguin knows that he knows. And yet they both put on a facade of civility. Penguin feigns concern for Thorne's safety, and Thorne reveals that he narrowly escaped death last time thanks to a little bird giving him a tip while looking over at Aaron. Penguin's response is to take her two sons below deck for a talking to. This is where she stashes the drugs, and we see that there's an opening at the bottom of the Iceberg Lounge that grants them access to the sea. When confronted, the two sons turn on each other, each accusing the other of being the traitor. Penguin speaks softly to her sons, telling them that she knows who the rat is, but that she doesn't hold a grudge for very long, before indicating to Iggy to lock Aaron in a casket and throw him into the sea. Penguin states that it's a shame because Aaron was her favourite, before turning to Ronnie saying that he is her favourite now. This is an indirect threat because Penguin wasn't entirely sure which of her sons had betrayed her, so she opted to kill one and put the fear of God into the other. If she was willing to murder her favourite son on the off chance that he had betrayed her, imagine what she'd do to the one that really betrayed her. And this to me is why Cape Crusader's Penguin is female. Having a father murder their children doesn't carry the same weight that having a mother murder their children does. In some parts of society, people can't even imagine a mother being capable of killing her own child. And this makes Penguin truly wicked. Later on, when Batman approaches the Iceberg Lounge in a submarine, we see that there are dozens of similar caskets, indicating that Penguin has been a very busy lady. It's telling that she would murder one of her own children, and just goes to show how much her ambition takes front and centre, Not even family can compete. Speaking of her sons, the creative team clearly hold these self-identifying elites in contempt. Ronnie wanders the deck of the Iceberg Lounge, eating cocktail shrimp, while waffling on about how he and his family are so stylish and classy to Barbara Gordon. First of all, he's talking with his mouth full, a clear indication that he has no class. Secondly, he's got cocktail sauce all over his shirt. Hardly stylish. Aaron, meanwhile, is diminutive in stature and desperately wants to be popular. He tries to form a connection with Bruce Wayne, who, perhaps playfully, doesn't recognise him and asks him to find somewhere for his hat and coat. Not exactly what you would call the creme de la creme of high society, is it? While Aaron is a mama's boy, Ronnie is jealous and treacherous. He had been leaking information to Rupert Thorne, so that when Thorne eventually wins the gang war, Ronnie can get a seat at the table. However, Thorne never had any intention of bringing Ronnie along with him. He snitched on his own mother, for crying out loud. That is not the kind of criminal Thorne wants to associate with. Realising that he's on his own, Ronnie heads to the cops to testify against his mother. He's clearly not the brightest bulb, given that he was just at his mother's party, and it was attended by city officials and the rank and file of the GCPD. Now, as for the Iceberg Lounge itself, it has a large top hat and umbrella on top of it. This is no mere decoration. The umbrella hides a gigantic cannon, which Penguin has been using to blow up Thorne's businesses, similar to Penguin's own umbrella that contains a blade. The fact that this club floats mean they can go out to sea and partake in illegal acts in international waters, free from the interference of the police. It also helps that most of the Gotham City Police Department frequent her club. This likely gives Penguin all the blackmail fuel that she needs, allowing her to get city officials to declare her explosive demolition of Thorne's businesses as accidents. And this gives Penguin a sense of confidence that she can do whatever she wants. She sends her men after her son Ronnie, who has confessed to Barbara Gordon, which results in a very loud public gun battle. Batman intervenes, allowing Barbara to take Ronnie to the GCPD. However, when Bullock informs Penguin that Ronnie is confessing to the Commissioner, she decides to just blow up the GCPD with her cannon, without warning. This is an astonishing act of violence, and Penguin is 100% certain that she'll get away with it, even though the Coast Guard have turned up. Hell, there may even be some city officials that would support her if she was able to kill Commissioner Gordon. It just goes to show how corrupt Gotham City is, that people like Penguin can thrive there. While the episode ends with her capture and the Gordons surviving to ensure that Penguin is prosecuted, Batman comes to the realisation that all he had done by taking out Penguin was make Rupert Thorne stronger. I have to say that I thought Penguin was probably my least favourite of the villains that appear in the show, but that doesn't mean that the creative team fumbled her. Far from it. I just think that the other villains are more interesting. I like the idea of Penguin embracing her nickname and having a public persona that masks her true nature. She presents herself as a caring, all-singing, all-dancing matriarch and business owner. But in reality, she's a cruel, heartless monster that doesn't care about the harm she causes other people. She may host a fundraising event for the police, but she was embezzling thousands of dollars. Likewise, she was more than willing to murder her own children, and I think that having a mother attempt to kill their children has more weight to it than having a father try and kill their children. It's not unheard of course, but it is always more shocking when mothers harm their own offspring. Even when she realised that she had murdered the wrong son, she wasn't at all fazed. She was more concerned that her other son would spill the beans to Commissioner Gordon, who she couldn't blackmail or bribe. And when she was caught red-handed by the Coast Guard and the Batman, her vindictive side came out, as she fired the cannon at the GCPD anyway. If she was going to lose, she'd make sure everyone else lost too. It's hard to definitively assess this version of the Penguin. She only appears in one episode, and even then her total screen time is less than 10 minutes. The other versions of the Penguin have had multiple episodes of shows or appeared in movies, so we're very familiar with them. However, she's off to a good start in Caped Crusader, and it'll be interesting to see if she makes a return in Season 2, or maybe a tie-in comic book? Hint hint, DC Comics. But for now, I think it's fair to say that this is one of the most wicked and ruthless versions of the Penguin we've ever seen. Okay, that's it for this video essay. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all the usual YouTube stuff. If you'd like to hear more about Batman Caped Crusader, why not check out our podcast Totally Shway Flipside, where my wife and I have gone through all 10 episodes. This is a spoiler-filled conversation about each episode in sequential order, so only check this out if you've watched the show or if you have no intentions of ever watching it yourself. I offer channel memberships for $1.99 a month, which will grant you early access to my video essays, and some supplementary perks like custom emojis, priority responses to your comments, members-only videos, and community posts. My next Caped Crusader villain video is going to look at the star of episode 2, and be a villain. the facially malleable Clayface, and how he subverted my expectations. Hope to see you then.